and welcome back to my musical and philosophical channel. Thank you for your supporting. It's very important for me, really. So, in the previous video dedicated to the musical aesthetics, the philosophy of music, I talked about the importance of medieval thinkers and its influence on the formation of music and aesthetics and music theory as a science, and the identification of a human being with a sounding instrument, where the soul is the master and the body, in fact, the instrument, is really a kind of echo of the ancient philosophical tradition, for example, Pythagorean tradition, and even modern problems, by the way, questions of mind-body problem, And since the beginning of our era, the so-called patristics has been slowly developing, and patristics or patrology is the study of the early Christian writers who are designated church fathers, and the names derive from the combined forms of Latin pater and Greek pater and father, so-called father. Yeah, and the period is generally considered to run from the end of New Testament times or the end of the apostolic age, and to either 451 is the date of the Council of Chalcedon or Second Council of Nicaea. And patristics includes many names, including the Alexandrian Theological School. It's a very important school tradition for early Christianic writers, which belongs to Greek patristics. And there was also the Antiochian school of patristics, but there was also Roman patristics. So we have these three main styles or three main traditions. And especially important names for musical aesthetics were two of the most famous representatives of Roman patristics, Saint Augustine, and Boethius. And so, Anicius Manlius Severinus Boethius, commonly called just Boethius, 477 and 524, was a Roman senator, consul, magister officiorum, I don't know exactly how it should be pronounced, magister, and philosopher of early 6th century, and he is designated as the last ancient philosopher. And he was born about a year after Odoacer deposed the last Western Roman emperor and declared himself king of Italy. And Boethius entered public service under Ostgothic King Theodoric the Great, who later imprisoned him and executed him in 524 on charge of conspiracy to overthrow him. And Boethius was unjustly convicted. And while he was waiting for his set end, the death, he wrote one of the most famous philosophers' books, the so-called Consolation of Philosophy, and this is a very beautiful poetic composition which was created in the best traditions of an enlightened patrician of antiquity, It includes both philosophical reflections and poems, so beautiful poems, And Boethius also has a treatise on music. Boethius drew attention to the educational effect of musical modes even earlier. In his Instruction to Music, he develops a Pythagorean concept of the use of modes. He says a harsh mind either rejoices in more energetic modes or is tempered by these modes. And what is a musical mode? Of course, we know about the major and minor musical modes, all of us. But in European tradition, there are three stages of the formation of these modes and this musical theory, and they have their origin in the ancient tradition. The Greek scales in the Aristoxenean tradition were Mixolydian mode, Lydian, Phrygian, Dorian, Hippolydian, Hippophrygian, Common, Locrian. So, for example, the Pythagoreans believed in the educational power of modes and their effect on the structure of our soul. In fact, this conviction passed to Plato, of course, and if we recall his famous dialogue, The Republic, then music is given a significant place. There, Boethius translated ancient music theory into Latin in the 6th century. These were the treatises of Nicomachus and Ptolemy. According to Boethius' research, musical modes were named after the names of tribes, for example, the Lydian or Phrygian tribes, because depending on which mode uses one or another tribe, the mode itself was named. And, every tribe is amused by a mood that is in accordance with its disposition. And it cannot happen that the soft is combined with the hard with the soft, or rejoices in it. But as it was said, love and pleasure are reconciled by similarity. That is why Plato believes that one should be most afraid of any change in music and musical field. He argues that there is no worse destruction of morals in the state than a gradual departure from shy and modest music. As you can see, music has literally political state significance. It is a matter of educating a moral person. And therefore, my friends, be vigilant and be careful and listen to good music. in fact, jokes are jokes, of course, but somehow we are affected. We are affected by what falls into the field of our attention, into our ears. So, returning to the early medieval ideas. At the same time, preference is given to the intellectual action of the composition, contemplation of mathematical beauty, and preference of its regularities, orders, to simple enjoyment of hearing. And it's very important. This quality distinguishes a genuine musician, a theoretical musician. A musician is one who has acquired knowledge in the science of singing, not by the slavery of a practical way, but by reason with the help of conclusions. A different approach, pursuing only the recreation of the sensual beauty of music, is a secondary and lower kind of musical art. This approach subsequently, of course, influenced the development of polyphony, where the mathematical principle is decisive in the correct vocalization. Knowledge of the theoretical foundations of music science is the main thing that distinguishes a true musician. In medieval treatises, there was even a division of terms to denote different types of musicians. Musicus is a musician who has knowledge of musical science and these mentioned modes. And cantor is just a singer, only a performer on an instrument or by voice. That is a master of practical skills. Preference is given to the first type of musicians as the more noble. Of course, there is certain exaggeration in this fact. Musical art is a complex synthesis of both knowledge, I think, and practice. Knowledge and practice, and one is inseparable from the other. Although, of course, in my opinion, music deals primarily with the world of ideas. I think so. These ideas are expressed in musical language, and they also need to be well owned. But still, it's also necessary to know what I'm expressing exactly. Therefore, for me, the study of philosophy is not just the great joy of my life, but also a kind of duty and exercise, practice. So, thank you for your attention. Thank you again for your supporting, and see you in the next video. Bye.